Hello, good morning, everybody. It's immigration lawyer John Castrog with the Immigration Lawyers Toolbox, episode 251 this Monday morning. Going to do a recap of what happened in quarter two in immigration law and practice. A lot of stuff happened. Now, typically when I've done these episodes, which I've been doing quarterly episodes for a while now, I just go skip through my LinkedIn feed where I save all news clips and stuff like that and mention things that are important. I realized that can be kind of annoying. So what I've done is I actually did some extra work and beforehand prepared for what we're going to talk about and took aside the websites I'm going to mention. One thing about that is there were so many things that happened in quarter two that I'm like, oh, this episode is going to be longer than I thought it would. Let me share the screen really quick for those watching live or watching on the recorded later. But yeah, it was a lot of things happened in immigration law during this time. So I was really surprised about that. So let me kind of open the screen up so they could see what's going on. But before actually getting into that stuff, let me put it on just me then. There's some housekeeping we got to talk about. So I'm planning this workshop in early 2023. That's about immigration law. Probably going to be about intro, beginner to intermediate, employment based. I'll get into more details about it later. Stuff that people really want to learn and help business and all that kind of stuff. Potentially making it about family based. I'm not sure. Probably going to be one track on Friday. Sometime in early first quarter, probably 2023. I want to mention it here because I want to put some feelers out there. We already have interest from people in Florida, from New Jersey. I wasn't expecting so much out-of-state stuff. I thought it'd be a lot good from Los Angeles, but I want to make sure there's a good group in there to get everybody involved. So if you're interested, email me at info@immigrationlawyerstoolbox.com so I can put you on the need to know like emergency list so you can plan it out. Just want to make sure you have a good group of people as we're planning this out. It's gonna be a lot of fun. A lot of it's gonna be partying and having fun too. I'm planning on having a good time because if you're coming all the way out here to LA during the winter, we don't have winters here in LA. So especially if you're outside of Southern California, you're gonna love coming here and beating the weather where you're at. No humidity and no snow and no real rain. It's just like summertime. That's nice. So come check it out. Hit me up at info@immigrationlawyerstoolbox.com so we could make sure you connect on that. Along with that, the Toolbox is a training course primarily where you train people how to be immigration lawyers. The main course called the Champions for Freedom course is about getting your own freedom by learning a practice area that could make you a lot of money and do a lot of good in the world and develop there and help other people gain their freedom as well. The course has been success. We have a lot of students. They talk really well about it. I got to record it and make clips of it so I could market that so you can see that students are really happy. But the big thing I want to talk about is I started a community page. I think that was a missing piece. So you'll watch the course and we have monthly office hours. You can ask questions. So it's follow up, but then add extra community. So, while you're waiting on someone, you ask questions where the group could see. So I purchased this software as a community page. If you're interested in being part of the community page, let me know. We already have a lot of people who join, but let me know. The more people we have, the more livelier discussion it is. I think that's going to be a lot of fun. So I want to make sure you do that. And again, along with the idea of education and helping immigration lawyers be better immigration lawyers, the new issue of the magazine, issue 5, is out. Real good issue. A lot of good information from great partners in the field that we're interviewing one by one. I just interviewed Disna Weerasinghe, who talked about I-140 ability to pay RFEs. I'm going to have that video out soon, but check out her article. Go to immigrationlawyerstoolbox.com/magazine to download the magazine. You don't have to download, you can flip through it, you can download the PDF. A lot of people are asking for me to mail it to them. I'm not there yet, but you can just download the PDF, even print it at home. A lot of good information there. Go back and read the back issues. You're going to be a better immigration lawyer, whether you've been doing it for 2 years or whether you've been doing it for 20 years. And just so much content there that can help you. So I really do recommend checking that out. And I want to thank the sponsors, DACAwise.com, which has always been supportive of the podcast and the magazine. And the work that they do has just been supportive of the immigration field with all the updates they do. I just did an interview with a co-founder, a regular quarterly interview with them. We were talking about updates to the software. So for those using it, you can check it out. For those interested, you can hear from the founder itself how much he appreciates the software, how much time and effort he puts into it, and all the new stuff that's happening. So check that out. If you want a 10% off their annual plan, use our code. Go to DACAwise.com/immigration-lawyers-podcast and use the code Immigration Lawyers Podcast. And a second sponsor I also want to mention is Argo Visa. One of our colleagues, Mandy Fearbacker, is co-founder of that one. And she's an immigration lawyer, former consular officer. She got a bunch of other consular officers to create a system where our clients can get the best, most updated information and training and prep for doing their embassy interview, along with other issues. They're good for consulting to get a better idea of what's happening. But I've used them a lot for several times for my clients who are nervous about a case in particular, and they wanted to talk with somebody and go through the procedure. So that was really helpful. Check out her work and her company at argovisa.com. It could be a lot of help there. Having said that, all the information I've talked about is not individual legal guidance intended for educational purposes. Go get your own lawyer, all that kind of stuff. But our audience is really immigration practice. If you're not a practitioner. Having said that, start bringing on some stuff. Let's see, how do I switch? Remove. Crazy. I'm trying to share my screen. Let's start. It's very fun when you're doing it live like this, but let's see, share screen. Okay, I think that's gonna work. Share screen. Okay, is it share? No, it's not. Oh, it's all crazy. How do I fix this? All right, so for those watching live, you're just gonna see my face for I don't know what's going on here. Stop sharing. It's not popping up the way I want it to, and I don't want to take too much of your time trying to figure out how to share a screen on here. We'll try one more time. I think that may have worked, but it's not showing anything particular. Okay, that maybe it's no, it's not the way I want it to be. So okay, most of you are listening to this anyway, so just continue to see my face. And people watching live could leave comments there and stuff. But let me start it up with USCIS. Now, there's a bias towards, I would say it's a bias towards USCIS kind of stuff, CBP and DOS, because that's what I deal with. But, you know, this is all big stuff. I do have court stuff in there as well. The big news, first of all, is just you got to be prepared for the updated forms. The updated form I-134, they don't call it affidavit support. They call it something else. But it's a financial affidavit support type document. They add more questions and made it more complicated. So when you're going to prepare this in the future, you're going to have to add extra fees for K1 fiancés, for example, where you use this. Very annoying. They also updated the form I-129F, the regional center forms, I-539 change of status, I-140, I-765. And as always, there's no noticeable difference in many of these, but you got to make sure to have the newest edition date. Now this, they also updated form I-485, the adjustment of status application. That was in Q3, so it's not technically Q2, which is a recap here. But you know, this is something to be mindful for. I have like one case where we're waiting on the client to pay the filing fees. They don't have much money, and we already have everything prepped. But essentially, we're gonna have to redo the I-765, and most likely it's gonna go into September if we get the money. So I have to redo the I-45. More legal work, unfortunately, but you know, it's how it is. They've also announced they've updated the DACA renewal form, so you can do that online. Obviously, many lawyers don't touch the online forms. Myself, I don't touch them. I have a couple clients every once in a while that force me to use it because of deadlines or they're really big on it. But it's something I avoid. But DACA is available online for renewal. I've submitted a recent renewal DACA on paper. Receipts came back pretty fast, so it's like I don't know why someone would want to use it online, frankly, unless they're doing it on their own. But you know, it's pro se kind of stuff. Another news: USCIS increases automatic extension period for work permits for certain applicants. So it goes up to 540 days, which is really good. The delays in getting EADs approved, especially extensions, have been ridiculous. I'm glad they're doing this kind of stuff. Now, be mindful, White House is reviewing immigration fee changes. So Q2, they announced they are looking to increase it with inflation, all that kind of stuff. It's inevitable. Trump tried to increase the fee, but wasn't successful with the lawsuits and stuff. But you know, USCIS has to be able to pay for itself and hire people. So unfortunately, it makes sense that they're going to increase the fee with the increase in cost of living and everything like that's happening. On another note, USCIS had extended its flexibility response to agency requests, which is wonderful. That extra time was needed, especially when they give you a 30-day RFE. And they, for example, they have an RFE, they mail it out, doesn't get to you for 2 weeks, and then you have 15 days left on that 30-day RFE. It's ridiculous. They should just make this permanent. But it seems July 25th, and we're recording this on July 25th, inclusive. If you got an RFE or intent to deny or revoke, all that kind of stuff, you get the 60-day extension. But you know, that's going to end, unfortunately. And so be prepared for that. You got your normal timelines that you used to have. That's back, and that's what we're dealing with. Now, a post on LinkedIn I shared. Let's see, I'm waiting for it to load. Why is this taking so long? I'll talk about something else. You know, the Ombudsman's office keeps making recommendations, and a lot of them are pursued. I did a whole video on the Ombudsman's office last week, and they're not really things. But one thing that they did, which was interesting, they did a whole report on issues with the I-129. And I really like this one recommendation. They say USCIS Ombudsman recommends that USCIS mail the receipt notice and approval notices with the Form I-94 attached to the beneficiary's address collected on the Form I-129F. And so that was really important because the beneficiary has no control. The employer might not give the documents. There's a lot of forced coercive kind of stuff that can happen with that. So surprising they haven't fixed something like that already. Another note, USCIS issued a policy update in June, which is really important about the 3 and 10-year bar. And they essentially said you could have the 3 and 10-year bar run while you're in the United States. You don't have to be outside. This was partial policy for a lot of field offices. There was inconsistent stuff on there. There's always the rule that if you do get a Haranka waiver, a 212D waiver, and you enter, you can run the time in the United States. But this is official, where they say, we're going to read something from it. Okay, so I'm not sure. I don't want to read all of it right here, but that's really important to know, to look into. Now, this doesn't apply for the permanent bar, and unfortunately, it doesn't, because I've recently had a lot of people. I've had like 3 or 4 people schedule consultations that were subject to permanent bar in the U.S., and it doesn't run while you're in the United States. This is specific to the 3 and 10-year bar, so be mindful of that issue. Another thing that happened is the USCIS is pushing the premium processing for new categories like the EB1C. Some call it EB13. I call it EB1C. And the national interest waiver. EB1C is multinational manager. EB1C is national interest waiver. And so they're saying, like, if you had submitted it and it's been pending since blah, blah, blah date, you could do it. You can't just do it with the initial filing. That's obviously hopefully going to change. But that's something to be mindful of. If you have a case that has been pending a while, you could potentially, you have to pay the premium processing fee, you get a decision. Kind of crazy situation, but that's what it is. USCIS also implemented a risk-based approach for conditional residence interview. These I-751 interviews have got out of control. I'm not sure what extra this does, but they say effective immediately, new criteria will guide USCIS on when to waive interviews for conditional relative PRs who filed I-751. This replaces previous guidance that required all CPRs to undergo interview if they obtain a CPR via consular processing. So, you get conditional. One of my viewers tell me, slow down, don't talk so fast. I'm trying to slow it down so I can be legible. But for conditional permanent residents, they would, before Trump, waive the interviews many times if they did consular processing, because if you did adjustment of status, they had one go at you to talk with you to prove it. But consular processing, they don't interview the couple together. So they say if you do that, especially you're Trump, they made it mandatory. There's interviews. They're bringing it back where they might waive the interview. So that's good. It's very clickbaity stuff. If you're going to do a YouTube video, say, our interviews being waived, and you'll immediately get at least 1,000 views. People love this topic over and over again, even though you have no control over it, so it doesn't really matter. But they do their own review based on the facts on how they're going to do it. So they've updated policy guidance on that. So that was the USCIS stuff I'd made note of. Let me bring the next window up of what we're going to talk about. This one is about consular. Okay, so consular stuff. Expansion of interview waiver eligibility for visa applicants from Pakistan. So speaking of waiver eligibility, Pakistan, so they're increasing it for F students, J's, H's, and non-blanket L's. From your mouth to God's ears, just getting an interview in Pakistan is going to be hard. I have like a lot of cases and immediate relative cases that are nowhere over there, unfortunately. So it's very tough on the families. I've been able to expedite a couple because they were going inside one couple where the spouse changed their religion to some sect. Like, so the U.S. citizen was part of some subsect of Islamic religion, and the wife changed her religion from like basic Sunni to like that sect. Essentially, that's going to be like danger to them, and we're able to expedite the case and get an emergency interview for that. But barring these kind of life and death scenarios, getting it expedited is really hard. So prepare for that. Bad news when it comes to NBC is that they've shut down phone calls if you're going to call them. And so it's been a couple of months now. The only way you can deal with them is by email. And as you know, that system is taking 3 months. Now, I did you should catch this podcast episode too, where I review the meeting AILA had with the NBC. It's a public meeting technically, and they're supposed to release these notes anyway, so I could do it here and talk about it here. But they said that when you submit a contact through their portal and you reference that you're a lawyer, it goes to the old email that we lawyers sent directly to, so it's supposed to come faster. I don't know about that. But it's taking like 2 or 3 months, or more like 3 months to get a response from them. So that's very annoying. If it's really urgent, you're gonna have to get a congressional rep kind of contacting them to get it done, because typical avenues to do it are not working. But on the other hand, there's some more stuff. The NBC stopped duplicating fees. So let's see, when you do like a parent of a U.S. citizen case, so you're a U.S. citizen filing for your mom and dad. It used to be that they only would take one affidavit support fee from them. So you'd save, how much was that? Like $150 or something like that. I'm not sure, $125. But they undid that and they said IR5 case is no longer eligible to have the fee shared. It needs to be paid on each case individually. So the visa categories that can share fees if they are paid in case of processing NBC are at the same time include IR1, IR2, and F2A. I think those are immediate relative spouse cases and LPR spouse cases with kids on them or something like that. I think. I mean, F2A is F2A. I don't remember what IR2 is, but I mean, technically it should be CR1 as well. I think. Maybe, I'm not sure. These codes, the clients call you like, I have the EX5 code. I'm like, listen, just tell me what you are. These codes I've been doing this a long time. I don't necessarily memorize all of them. Excuse me, I'm muted while I cough. One of the bad things about doing stuff so early in the morning, like this podcast, after having a 2-hour team meeting, is by the time I get to y'all, this throat needs a break. And along with that, I started drinking this juice. That's like this powder that you put in water. And if some piece of the powder doesn't dissolve and I eat it, all of a sudden it's like a bunch of dry powder in my throat. so, I'm to give you some behind the scenes of what's going on in immigration on our Toolbox podcast. All right, going back to work. The embassy in Havana is starting limited resumption of activities for parents of U.S. citizen cases. So it's really neat they're doing that. There was some sort of mess that called the Havana syndrome, where their consular officers were being attacked, allegedly getting sick and stuff. I'm not really following any detail what's going on with there. But hey, if you have Cuban cases, you're a Florida attorney, that's a big boost right there to do that. Our colleague Liam Short's always updating on great fam news and just news with consular processing. References that Consular Affairs has made some rather extensive modifications to the FAM's e-visa provisions in 9 FAM 402.9. So check that out if you're doing an e-visa. Check out the updates to the Foreign Affairs Manual. Something that can help you a lot. Now, U.S. drops COVID testing requirements for international travelers. So that eases up a lot of things if your clients are traveling and not green card holders, U.S. citizens. That's something to let them know on so they don't have to do the old thing where they have to get tested right for coming, which could be a nightmare trying to get that all together, depending on which country you're from. It could be even harder. Now, they're saying U.S. Embassy in India is changing the procedures to allow more streamlined kind of processing. We'll see what happens. One colleague who is over there in India said U.S. Mission India. They based it on the Twitter feed for U.S. Embassy India. Now, if you have a lot of Indian cases, finding them and following on Twitter is really important because that seems to be a main avenue where they share information. But it says U.S. mission to India has please announced that we are resuming routine in-person tourist visa appointments in September 2020. Previous scheduled placeholders have now been canceled. So if they're scheduling tourist visa appointments, which I'm glad I read this in more detail. I just read this as they're doing regular scheduled interviews for everything, not just tourist visas. And I said so in a couple different public places, so I guess a correction here. But it's good. If they're doing tourist visas, that means the other visa categories are opening up too. It's just going to take a while for that to actually happen. And the State Department predicts the strongest year for foreign service intake in a decade. Apparently, they've hired a lot of people, so that over the medium term should be a big boost to how consular processing happening in the timelines, which have been killer, how bad they've been. And hopefully that's going to be fixed. Some court stuff now for those people who like court stuff. The Biden administration issued guidance on prosecutorial discretion. A court said in Texas said no. And then the Supreme Court said we're not going to undo the injunction. We're going to hear this and that. I mean, I thought for better or for worse, if the president says like something, they got to do it when it comes to this kind of stuff. So it's surprising that he can't change a previous president's decision. I didn't read the decisions and what it's about, but that seems kind of weird that they're not doing that. Moving on, Biden looses terror restrictions for fleeing Afghans. This is something interesting that happened. Their requirements for inadmissibility with regards to being associated with a terrorist group and all that kind of stuff, even if you're coerced or forced into it, limited material support kind of thing. And obviously a lot of people were forced into different things under the Afghan regime and Taliban, all that kind of stuff. So they eased it up, so that goes away. But the way the regulations worded, it seemed like it affected other people, particularly Iranians who were forced into military conscription services for the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, or Sepah. People got really happy because these Iranian cases were being denied based on membership in that group. But it was assumed that by many that this means that it loosened up for them too. But it's not the case. I've had a colleague email the embassy asking about it, and the embassy said, no, this is for Afghans only. I wish the regulations were more specific. Maybe there could be lawsuits about that, but unlikely. So that's just positive for Afghans, negative for the Iranians. DC revised plasma companies' visa policy suit. So there's one issue with coming to the United States for being a labor to hire, which is a problem, but people want to come here and donate plasma, blood plasma, and leave. It's the DC circuit said that should be allowed. They got to create a space for that, and all that kind of stuff for giving the plasma, this and that. Interesting case. I did a whole video on it earlier on the podcast, so I won't go too much into it, but that was neat. I think I already talked about this one. Justices curb court review of immigration rulings. This was a messed up case that the Supreme Court did with this guy. Could have got a driver's license because he had adjustment status pending in an EAD, but mistakenly marked citizen, which made no difference for his ability to be able to get the benefit under the act because he was entitled to the benefit anyways. But USCIS and the court mistakenly disagreed, and they followed the case up to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court said, we're not going to review that. Let the USCIS and court make a decision. Even if it's wrong, we're not going to deal with it. Horrible decision, but that's what we're dealing with. Another good decision was a lawsuit made about the policy for CBP about people who are in the marijuana industry and visiting the United States. Essentially, CBP had said, our policy says they can't come at all. There's suit on this, a FOIA suit, and it covers that there's no policy regarding that. You could be involved in the weed industry in Canada, for example, where it's legal, but come to the United States, as long as you're not coming here to do marijuana-related work or something like that. So if you have clients, check it out. The law firm that sued was Davis Wright Tremaine. Something to read, not a previous podcast on that, so you can check that out. DHS announces extension of temporary protected status of Venezuela, which is good. There's a bunch of these TPS announced for Afghanistan. This was way late done, and after it was done for Ukraine, I think it was for political purposes. Because it looked bad that they immediately announced TPS for Ukraine, but then they hadn't done anything for Afghanistan. Now, I interviewed the cover of issue 3 of the magazine. I was talking with Spojmi Najmi, not Nasiri, or Najmi, Spojmi Najmi, and she said that the reason why they weren't doing TPS because it was an internal issue of whether we should issue TPS, which is temporary, or create a more permanent program. And so that might have been a reason for the delay. But Sudan had declared TPS. We declared TPS for Sudan as well as Cameroon. But for Ukraine, which was interesting, is they announced it and they had the date which they had to be in the U.S. by. But then a month later, they moved it back and gave more time for Ukrainians who could come in. It's not a typical move to see, but that was something that happened. And along with that, Q2 saw the creation of the United for Ukraine program, unbelievable, miraculous immigration program that did that within like 2 weeks, 1 or 2 weeks, we'd have Ukrainians here in the United States. Incredible how fast they work on it and how much limited amount of paperwork they needed to get them here. So that was an unbelievable thing that happened, but hey, it happens. It shows they have the power to do this kind of stuff. They also extended Syrian TPS EADs through September 24th, certain Syrian TPS EADs through September 24th, some more time there. And finally, on the humanitarian and briefing, they're updating the system for Afghan special visa applicants. Not something I deal with. I get requests for it every day, but it's just I don't get into SIV cases, so that helps a lot of people. And some more court stuff. Justices deny right to bond hearing for immigrants. That's always fun. High Court rules Biden can't end Remain in Mexico program. That's good. The Justice Department sanctioned fined a lot of people. So it says Justice Department secures settlement with 16 employers for posting job advertisements on college recruiting platforms that discriminated against non-U.S. citizens. And there's different places. The top is KPMG. Their penalty was $300,000. Kiot LLC, $256,000. Blah blah. And a colleague made an interesting note. Bob Weber, who has a great LinkedIn page, check it out. And he also started what is it called? Some sort of page where you pay money and you could get all these internal articles he's writing, all that kind of stuff. The Substack or something like that. But what a KPMG is also practices immigration law, and so they should know better. But yeah, that's how it goes. See, Second Circuit reverses BIA on dual citizenship refugee questions. So it's interesting. They said that A dual national asylum seeker can qualify as a refugee by showing persecution in just one of their countries of nationality, reversing a lower tribunal's decision. That could be a big deal and may affect TPS as well. I'm not sure. I think it's the way this says the INA is written for asylum, so I'm not sure if it applies for TPS directly. Texas judge acts as Biden's ICE and foreign policy nationwide. I talked about a little bit earlier. Fake Social Security card is grounds for deportation, Ninth Circuit says. So this is a question that pops up a lot. What if someone used a fake Social Security number? Is that a crime? Isn't that? In this case, I think it was out of Utah where the person did that. They were deported. Ninth Circuit says, yep, that's an issue. So if you have clients who do that, be prepared. I don't even have an answer how to deal with that because for so many years now, for at least all my practice, people have, and I have submitted cases where a fake Social Security number was used and they didn't care. I don't think I have because usually my cases are like students who have EADs, OPTs, and stuff. But I just seen it happen all the time. I know it's a normal thing. Beyond immigration, ICE's massive surveillance system has info on most Americans, reports say. I've been talking about this a lot over the years, less recently, just because I care less and less about just a lot of stuff because I have no control over it. But ICE has a whole system, a dragnet system, essentially collecting information on all of us. So the totalitarian system that's coming is going to be, always based on the foreigners first to kind of get them. That's what ICE is doing. That's essentially turned on every American. We have only information. They do information sharing, where they can screw you over if they want to. An unfortunate thing about being America, but it seems that's how every government in the world is going towards this kind of surveillance state. Here we're just using ICE as the excuse for it. And feds indict 11 in California, one-stop shop for marriage fraud. That's that. Okay, so these are some final notes about tech and stuff like that. Hoping to keep these videos under 30 minutes. There was this email going around, and be careful for your clients, where they'll send to clients and say you failed to change your address using for AR11, and because that you're gonna be fined and stuff like that. That USCIS would send to people or by letter or by email. Be prepared for clients getting stuff about that wrong. For those who are members of the Champions for Freedom training program, our next session is coming up on August, third Thursday of August, as always, as a reminder. So if you're watching that, if you're interested in learning about these programs, let me know. We have all sorts of courses and training and community stuff and practice management stuff, all these things we're going to do. So just email me if you're interested in that and we can talk about it. A quick note, AILA updated its insurance provider. So I had AILA insurance, a lot of you do. I don't think it made a difference for our send. It just changes the provider, but the person providing legal insurance for AILA changed. So just note that. And then some tech notes. So in Q2, a lot of different things happened. So Law management software was acquired by Paradigm. So if you're using Law, they were bought out. My case bought DocuWise, and there was another sale that's happened. It's Q3, but who was the company? There's one of these other companies about someone else. So essentially almost all, I think, except Serenade or something like that, was purchased out. So all these management softwares that we're doing, they're all getting purchased by private equity or bigger corporations who have bigger ideas for them. So that's an interesting thing. And also, we talked about Argo Visa sponsor. They were bought by acquired by BDB Solutions. BDB Solutions, I think the founder, owner, or one of the owners of it is also an immigration who was a consular officer. We did an interview with him. Michael Richardson, I think is his name. I've talked to him in a while. But interesting, a lot of movement, shaking and movement happened in this immigration space. So it just means a lot of money going on here. It's a good practice area to be in. So that was a recap of Q2. I hope you enjoyed it. Just good to go back and see what happened, kind of in life, what happened, how do we get where we are? And then I get all these together and pick the best ones. I do an annual review. So you really stay in touch of how this, whole wave is happening in this immigration space. I hope you enjoyed that episode. If you're interested, enjoy the community for immigration lawyers talking. Email me at info@immigrationlawyerstoolbox.com. If you want to be a better immigration attorney to learn it or do other stuff, different types of the field, you want to come to the workshop, all this kind of stuff, just reach out to me. I love talking with y'all. info@immigrationlawyerstoolbox.com. And catch the magazine at immigrationlawyerstoolbox.com/magazine. A lot of good information there can help you be a better immigration attorney, which is our goal. Thank you so much, everyone. God bless. Be safe. Talk to you next week.